Hello and welcome to Power to the People with me, Graeme Pryce. Do you know what I find really gets my back up? My heckles rising. What really grinds my gears to a greasy pulp? It's when people say their reason for following utterly skanky far-right carpetbaggers like Nigel Farage is because he tells it like it is. Those of us who live in a world of reality and actual evidence know without a shadow of a doubt that Nigel certainly does not tell it like it is. He tells it like he thinks the very worst kind of racists, morons, extremists and Islamophobes want it to be. He blatantly lies to portray a vision of a country that is swirling down the pan, reeking with Sharia law. If you're a follower of Nigel and you clicked on this video intending to see what this lefty Labour-loving bastard is saying about your favourite grifter, then at least do me the honour of watching a few of the things I'm going to say. And if you're one of my usual viewers, watch it anyway and then you'll know what to say the next time some dumbass says he tells it like it is. I've got 10 of Nigel's lies in the last decade and we'll quickly go through them right after this. I was just looking at my channel analytics and I noticed that 53% of people who watch my videos weren't subscribed. The pain. Come on, just have a quick check that you've subbed, liked and rang the bell. Make a skinny old scouser a little bit happier today. Let's begin with a particularly dangerous lie because it gives people the impression that you can go shoplifting whenever you like. Last year, Nigel Farage said in an interview, "You can go shoplifting, provided you nick less than £200 worth of stuff. You won't get prosecuted." This is a lie. The cost of living has driven many despairing people who would have never considered themselves to be shoplifters to start stealing things like baby formula or ladies' hygiene products. Shoplifting figures have risen sharply in the last 2 years. But in just 2023, over 31,000 people were prosecuted for low-level shoplifting and received anything from a fine up to 6 months in prison. When asked if the UK is fulfilling its duty to asylum seekers during the outbreak of civil war in Syria, Nigel Farage said that Saudi Arabia, Kuwait and Bahrain refused to take a single refugee or displaced person from Syria, their neighbouring country. This is a lie. These countries have taken 2.5 million Syrian refugees in, and Saudi Arabia has granted permanent residence to over 100,000 Syrian asylum seekers. Nigel lying about immigration, eh? What a surprise. Here's a blatantly obvious one that a lot of his followers seem utterly unable to grasp for some reason. Nigel Farage said during the EU referendum campaign that we should leave the EU because we do not want to be ruled by unelected bureaucrats. This is a lie. The EU equivalent of the civil service only reports to elected heads of state, and the European Parliament is made up of elected MEPs. The fact that King Nigel was himself an MEP for 10 years means he definitely knows this. He was deliberately trying to deceive the public. Nigel Farage said that the EU costs the UK £55 million a day. This is a lie. In reality, it was less than half that amount, and after counting the subsidies and other gains we made by being part of the EU, we enjoyed a variable but continual net gain from every single year we were part of it. That's why we are now an obviously poorer country than we were before Brexit. Nigel isn't poorer than he was before Brexit though, he's richer. He's just fine. He claimed on Twitter, "Reform UK will reject the influence of the World Economic Forum and cancel Britain's membership of it." Small problem, the UK isn't part of the World Economic Forum. That's not how it works. This is a lie. It's one of the most disgusting and extreme examples of fucking froggage. Jumping on the Trumpian bandwagon and seeing what the dumbest conspiracy theorists are saying on Twitter and then repeating it to try and get their support. Thousands of people believed him though, and the comments were full of people who now think the World Economic Forum is some sort of evil leftist socialist entity. But they can't tell you exactly what it is. or why it exists, or where it is, or why they should be frightened of it. Cheers for that, Nigel. During the election campaign, Nigel Farage instructed David Bull, his then deputy leader, to say that Reform UK's manifesto, which they called their contract, had been looked at and checked over by the Office of Budget Responsibility, the OBR. This is a lie. The OBR does not have the resources or legal right to scrutinise every opposition manifesto. If they did, then every idiot in the country could scribble down a stupid manifesto on the back of a fag packet and send it in. And they'd end up needing billions and billions in resources and staff to check them all and publish the results of them. This is why they only look at the manifesto of the sitting government. It should be obvious, not to a lot of people, but it definitely is to Nigel. He knows this is the case. He was lying. And also, during the election campaign, Nigel Farage said that if he was elected, all police officers would start having to undergo a 2-year probation period. This is a lie. It's already in place. This is already how police recruitment works. He knows this, but he also knows his supporters are very unlikely to check his facts. He said this because he thought it would sound like something his followers would appreciate, knowing full well that it was already in place and it had been put in place some years ago. He said that Labour had not even mentioned immigration in their manifesto. This is a lie. I find it very difficult to believe that Nigel was completely unaware of what was in Labour's manifesto. However, he seemed to have missed the third of Labour's 6 pledges to launch a border security command, a pledge specifically focused on immigration and tackling criminal boat gangs. There are further details on Labour's website if he cares to look, and they have already made some progress in this. Doesn't want his followers to know that though, obviously, does he? He said that the poorest people in society would benefit from Reform's tax plans. This is a lie. Reform's tax plans would only see changes in tax levels for people earning over £95,000 a year. People earning below that would see negligible change at all in the levels of tax they do, or in many cases don't pay. They'd be entirely unaffected, which, is not something Nigel wants them to know. But what would really be happening is that rich people would be getting a tax break. He's relying on the votes of people who mostly pay no tax at all, or pay tax through the PAYE system, and so will never have any reason to pick up and scrutinise Reform's written tax plans, will they? I think we better finish on the biggest of them all, the biggest in recent times, in terms of impact and monetary loss and destruction anyway, the Farage riots, or Farage riots, however you want to pronounce it. Nigel Farage posted a video on Twitter the day after a community had been robbed of the lives of 3 innocent children, and claimed that he was concerned and suspicious, and that the identity of the murderer was being hidden for some reason. But he was just asking questions. This is a lie. Nigel Farage is not a stupid man, and he's not an ignorant man. He knows how the laws of this country work, and he knew full well the reason that the police hadn't released the perpetrator's name was because he was underage. He was still 17. A judge can release the names of underage perpetrators if they feel it's necessary, and the judge did go on to do so eventually. But Nigel couldn't wait, could he? No, he was out there stirring the pot before the judge had got his fucking wig on. This is why those riots will be forever known as the Farage riots, and quite rightly so as well. Lying bastard. Thank you for watching if you've gotten this far, especially if you're a Reform voter or a fan of Nigel. Please feel free to leave any comments you might have about any of these lies that I've talked about in the comments section. I do read them all, and as long as you've made your point reasonably politely, you'll probably get a reply. If by some rare political miracle I've made you think twice about supporting Nigel Farage anymore, then let me know that too. Pretty sure there won't be any of those though. What I do expect is a few people thinking it's insulting to call me a lefty, a few just denying everything I've said happened, and one or two who will say that I'm telling lies about the lies Nigel Farage told, in the most Trumpian way imaginable. But I don't block comments unless they're absolutely filthy, and I don't delete comments if somebody makes a point I disagree with, but I do expect you to explain your reasoning and logic. I'm trying to build a debate forum, not an echo chamber. If you'd like to be more a part of that going forward, then there are links to PayPal, Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee lurking skeptically in the comments section, and there is a join button for memberships below. As always, very, very much appreciated indeed. Now that isn't all I have to say, but it is as much of what I've got to say as I'm going to say today. Ta-ra-la. Last year, Nigel Farage said you can now go shoplifting providing you stick... Oh, for fuck's sake.